Welcome to a galaxy far, far away. Here at the Cantina podcast, we provide top shelf service, including rumors, leaks, news, and reviews. Come in, order a Loman Ale, and remember, no droids allowed. And there we go. We got our intro going, Cam. Oh, God, it is yet another Cantina full of mixed emotions from yours truly, Kyle Malone, and like I already said his name, I'm joined today by Cam only. Mike is ditching us for a business trip. What's up, Cam?
Nothing much. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. Hey, hanging in there. I am trying to get used to a new mouse that I purchased on Amazon Prime Day. And it's the Logitech G502 Hero, and it's got, like, you can add weights to the bottom of it and shit. It's nifty. It's mostly like my former mouse, which was from SteelSeries, but it is a little different, and the weight's different. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. It has nothing to do with fucking Star, except it lights up like blue and green and red, and thanks to George.
That's kind of lightsaber colors.
Yeah, thanks to George Lucas being fucking boring half the time. That's all the lightsaber colors we have besides what's his name's purple and what's her name's white. But yeah, man, it's been a relatively slow Star Wars news week, hasn't it?
Yeah. There's not been much. A couple of things early on part of the week, but nothing staggering.
Yeah.
Not a lot of rumors around or anything like that we've not already covered.
Yeah,
so,
but that's fine, because it gives us lots of time to go over two big things that did happen, and potentially one more thing. We got some news on the Acolyte, and then we got some news including those including the screenshots, the images of
the cover art.
Yeah, the cover art. There you go. The cover art of the Wave 2 of the Legends, Star Wars
Essential
Legends
series. Yeah.
Yep. And I've got strong opinions on both, but it's your week to run the show, Cam. So why don't you go ahead and tell me where you want us to start off, so I can bring up a picture and story.
Well, I mean, we might as well start with the book side of things, which is closest to your heart, I think, rather than mine.
Where did you send me the link to that? Do you remember in
Slack? Yeah, it's on your private.
Oh, my private one. Okay.
Or direct messages, yeah.
Got it. All right. I will load
just
that
so
up.
You can look at the pictures.
Yeah, go ahead and start chit-chatting.
Yeah, so I mean, this is obviously something that we talked about a bit more extensively last week, which was, you had mentioned, basically how pissed off you were, and that you'd got in touch with Michael A. Stackpole. And he had the thing about these books, one of which is his, Rogue Squadron, is being re-released. So today I saw that they had actually released the cover art for it. And obviously sent that on to you because I knew you would want to see it, and you were talking about what they might do with the cover art and everything like that. I remember you were talking about that last week. So, I mean, to be honest, let me have a look just now.
Have the screen up for everyone that's on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you're not on YouTube, you should be, because we're doing more video stuff. So go to YouTube, hit subscribe, watch us there. If not, you got the audio only. We'll do our best to describe them.
I mean, I can't say I dislike any of those books. They're kind of that modern style. They're all kind of similarly branded, you know what I mean? So, you're kind of on brand in terms of the sort of what we call now legends, or the old EU. So there seems to be some connectivity, even though it's three different artists that are doing the pictures for these books. So
yeah, it looks like they're trying to combine their new canon kind of title style with a touch of the old EU artwork on all of them, except for Rogue Squadron. So
it's a slightly strange one, but I mean, there's the thing. I don't know if you can bring that up. What did the old Rogue Squadron book look like? Was that the one with just like the X-wing fighters in the front? I think you had an image saved on the. I think we've used it for even. When we've been talking about the Rogue Squadron,
used it plenty
movie,
of times. Book. There we go.
We've used it plenty of times. There's the traditional. This shouldn't be there because fuck it. But yeah, that's the traditional, and there's the first 4 books from Mike Stackpole's quadrilogy that kicked off the X-Wing novels. He of course did comics before them. You can see some throughout here. My biggest thing, dude, is just look, Leia, Luke, Han, characters that we've never seen in canon before, and then Mara fucking Jade, dude. Like, holy shit! I don't think people realize this is a big deal to see her new art of her, right?
I mean, kind of. I mean, in terms of I get why they go for the classic, characters that everyone knows. But I mean, if you're talking about that trilogy of books, Mara Jade's a pretty major character as that goes, and then she becomes pretty important in the rest of the EU that goes on after that, because of course she gets together with Luke and they have babies and shit. So
yep, exactly. And let's not forget that in the current comic run, we have seen Luke's hand and had the lightsaber mentioned, which are key parts of this storyline, the original Thrawn trilogy. As you see it here, book 3 of the Thrawn trilogy. That's right, guys, the Thrawn trilogy. Anyways, I think we're getting ready to see Mara come into canon. They've been
interesting. I mean, that's a character that people have wanted to come in for a long time, but then what happened to her between whenever we do see her and The Force Awakens?
That's what I think they're gonna do is I think she's gonna pop up in a cartoon first. I could be wrong. We could see her in maybe something like a Ahsoka. We're not gonna get a straight up translation of the Heir to the Empire or Thrawn trilogy.
No, and I don't think we could do that now anyway. But
even if we recast Luke, I still don't want it. But I am. I mean,
we now would be looking for something to do with sort of Luke's Jedi Academy, wouldn't we? In terms of what happened with him at the end of the Mandalorian season 2, taking Grogu away. That's where I would like to see some more Luke Skywalker. And we've discussed before that animated would be cool, because then you could just use Mark Hamill. And then it would just be a case of sort of casting someone for the voice of Mara Jade if they decided to bring a character like that in. Yeah, but it would be a kind of interesting dynamic to bring into a show like that. A sort of maybe even something like they completely twist it and she's a Jedi pupil of some kind that Luke starts falling for, and that complicates things, and stuff like that. That could be quite interesting. If because they're not beholden to kind of starting her off as being using the dark side, working with Vader and the Emperor's hand, or anything like that. I can't see them going down that route now. With a character, but it is possible to bring in a character called Mara Jade and still give her a lot of the same characteristics as the character in the book did have.
That's what I think is basically going to happen.
Interesting. I don't know if I agree with you that will happen.
Yeah, this is why, because like I said, they obviously released these books for a reason, and we have theories on, and these are just theories, no leaks. That's just Kyle and sometimes Cam thinking. There's definitely some things that they're borrowing from here in those comics. We mentioned the hand and the lightsaber that Maz had in episode 7. We know the Emperor was dealing with clones, and that this trilogy deals with clones, we also know that they released a Luke Skywalker Heir to the Empire trilogy toy. I think if you see a Mara Jade toy come out, I think that's the guarantee that she is coming to canon. I really do.
But would they not wait until they define a look for her in the canon before they release a toy? Would they release one, that was based on the EU look?
I think they'll release like a companion one to go with the Luke Skywalker one, so it'll be this version
I
of
don't know.
Mara.
I could see them releasing that just because they think this will make money, which I think it would.
Yes, but it's
whether
also
they plan to use uncanon.
I think they do, and I think the toy will. I think this has been a good test. They're going to see how these next two books do, especially putting her on there and see how much like buzz it drives. And I do, man. I think that'll be. Now you are right. It could 100% just be money, and it would work, and it would make them lots of money. But I do think that they're watching closely, and that we could definitely see them. We could definitely see Mara Jade come over, and it wouldn't be bad. There's a lot of ways to do it, but we'll see. Now the one that I of course want to talk about the most is this one right here, Rogue Squadron. It is the plainest, most boring of the covers. We have pilot on there that might be Wedge. We don't know. It's very silhouetted. I don't know. I get two things out of this. One, they didn't want to, either they don't have Wedge's likeness or they didn't want to use it. And two, I don't think they want to put a face on here to connect with anything other than this title, Rogue Squadron,
that's what I would
for
guess.
the movies.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is going on, which I think is even more proof that you and I are 100% on target that Rogue Squadron's not going to deal with any of the rogues that we know. Maybe we wish Wedge would be like the Admiral Akbar of this situation.
Yeah, just the fact that we know that if this is set post Skywalker, then Wedge was around, and he was on that gunner at the end. So so he is around and could potentially, as someone with that kind of level experience, be someone that the new Republic. I mean, what the fuck is it now? Is it like the Republic the Third or something like that, or whatever they end up with now? That would have want to create a force to prevent whatever else is going on with the remnants of the First Order and stop this kind of happening again.
Exactly. And I'm down with that movie. I'm down with that story. Like, you and I were like, you could take
it's kind of just the same story as the one
moving it up
that we had, but it's moving a trilogy on.
And it works because the one thing
that it does work, but at the same time, it still annoys me that that's the end and not the end that we used to have, because the old ending was better. Anyway,
I can agree with that. I just brought up the other past Alphabet Squadron books, and I think these might even be comic books from the way it looks. I know this was at one point, cover not final at one point, but this is the style that they ended up making the Rogue Squadron one. Again, I think just to focus on that title and not so much necessarily who's in it or anything.
That's what I would guess.
That.
Whenever they bring out, if, let's say, when the Lord of the Rings movies come out, and they always do a re-release of the books at that point, and what are they going to do? They're going to use the images from those books. I don't think they know they can't quite do that in this respect, because the film won't be an adaptation of that book. I don't think it will be, but I think by keeping it kind of generic, people are, that aren't as knowledgeable as us are going to pick that, go, hey, that's that movie. This book must be good, and maybe pick it up, and then probably wonder what the hell's going on when they're partway through it. But irrespective of that, I think it's better marketing to do it like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is, especially if it's what we're thinking. And look, guys. Everyone knows how I feel about this book series, how I feel about the author and other books that he's written. I look at this cover and I'm disappointed. Look, it's smart. Me, Cam and I are in agreement on what Disney is likely doing and why, and we agreed that that's the smart business sense. But at the same time, again, as a fan, and as a long time Star Wars fan, I'm disappointed Wedge's face isn't on here. You know, like I didn't expect any of the characters that Stackpole created to appear on it. You know, like even if they do iJedi, I doubt maybe we'll see a silhouette of Karan Horn and a lightsaber or something, but they won't do they won't use the any of the artwork from before, which is funny because Mike Stackpole actually modeled for the imagery for Karan Horn. So
do you think they could end up basically now adapting what was the EU and just replacing Luke with Rey and doing it that way? Do you know what I mean? Almost.
I mean, you kind of could. And look, again, that's not a terrible idea with the right writers and the right plan. You know,
yeah, except, you know, I mean, Poe, Finn, and Rey are not quite as iconic as Han, Luke, and Leia were, you know, at the time, and that's part of the charm of it. Do you know what I mean? For me, anyway. You know, the sequel trilogy didn't do enough to make me really love those characters. I mean, I like Rey. You know, she's kind of cool, but it's not particularly that interesting. Finn's just kind of not that interesting to me, and really Poe, I just felt like get the least amount of sort of development at all in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of who we're left with. The most interesting character, 100% for that sequel trilogy, is the one we can't explore anymore because it was Ben Solo and he's dead now. You know,
very, very true.
Not sure that was such a good idea now, but you know, they wanted to do the redemption thing, and you know, when things are that bad, you have to kind of give up your life to redeem it. Is the way they're thinking about it, aka Darth Vader. But I think I would actually, in this instance, it would be more interesting to see Ben stay alive, but kind of not know what to do and how to redeem himself, and kind of watch that journey. But I don't think they could afford to sign Ben's Solo's actor Adam Driver up for that long, probably. I don't think he would want to commit to something like that for that length of time, to be perfectly honest with you. It's probably something they couldn't do.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think the best things, like honestly, what I wish is that we could get some look, Disney, look, Star Wars, Del Rey, Lucasfilm, Kathleen, anybody that will listen, okay? Do some good books, please. Like, I would read the fuck out of a Kylo Ren trilogy that takes us from his training to him to where we see him in The Force Awakens. I would read that trilogy if it was written.
I think they're frightened to go there in case there's an opportunity to go there in some other way later on. That's the problem.
That's what kills all of their books.
If you write a book and you make it canon, and then you bring a creative in to make a series about it, and they go, actually, I'd really like to change some stuff. You've suddenly made your book non-canon, and then you're back to, oh, sorry, guys, but, you know, this is no longer canon anymore. And I think that's what they're so frightened of doing at the moment, because they're more focused on the visual medium, whereas in that EU period, there was nothing else coming in the visual medium. Nobody could afford to do that, really. So instead, you know, it was that the canon was those books and the way it went. But, you know, I think that's why they've then, for the book side, they've went to a completely different period, you know, in the High Republic, so that they can't kind of mess up any of the stuff that they really want to kind of touch that might attract the fans' attention. Just my theory, but I think that's basically what's going on. And I don't see that changing either. And as someone who prefers, I mean, I'm an avid book reader, but I'm not massive into Star Wars books anymore, because I think they're very rarely written for adults these days, most of them anyway. That I would rather see something probably done in the visual medium anyway, so I can kind of get that, because for me that's what Star Wars is more. You know, it's a visual thing. That's just me.
Yeah. You know, look, I'm never gonna be 100% happy with everything that they're doing going forward.
No.
I wasn't 100% happy with what the EU did. I wasn't 100%
No.
happy with what George Lucas did. You know,
Yeah, I agree with you on all
thing.
three of them. Yeah.
And I love the fact that you and I and Mike usually we're able to show people, because fuck, dude, you and I have been doing this show now going on 2 years from when it was just reviewing the movies leading up to Rise of
So
Skywalker.
started off monthly.
Yeah, and now we do this, you know, weekly, and it's been a lot of fun, and we don't always agree, you and I. We don't always have the same theories. We don't always have the same likes or dislike. I really like that about us and this show, because it sets us apart from a lot of the outrage shows and channels and the people that sell clickbait, sometimes legitimate clickbait, like actually editing Star Wars official Twitter page with Photoshop for your thumbnail type clickbait, and you're garbage for doing that. Us, we don't. We offer our opinions, our theories as they come up, and then we let you guys decide what you think based on that. You know,
that's it.
That's what it's supposed to be.
If there's someone sitting listening to this show that absolutely disagrees with everything that we say, that's absolutely fine. You know, everyone. And I think this kind of leads us a little bit into the next thing as well, that Star Wars is, especially these days, it's kind of whatever it is for you.
Yes.
You know, and I think,
to a
as
degree.
an older fan,
to a degree.
to a degree, yeah. But I think the balance that they have to strike is not pissing off all the people that started off being fans, which I don't think is a line that they've straddled very well. So far anyway, Disney until recently. But yeah, I mean, I don't think, I'm not one of these dinosaurs that says, well, it has to be like this because that's the way it always was as well. You know, that would kind of stifle the franchise as well. You know, that was fine when it was just George Lucas and he had the power to say, I'm not making any more. That's it. You know, that was okay then for it all to be under one person's vision. But as soon as it went to Disney, they knew they were going to make Star Wars stuff for the rest of the time, basically. Probably those, at one point I always thought, well, when I die one day, I'll have seen everything Star Wars, because, George Lucas had finally got to make his prequel trilogy, even though I didn't particularly like it. And then they made the sequels and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to see these now. And then you come to that realization that, one day I'm going to pass away and there's going to be more Star Wars stuff coming out that I've never seen before. It's just going to happen. It's going to keep going forever. And in order to do that, they have to diversify it all. They have to get into, use that sandbox and get into other genres. And interestingly, I think we're just about to talk about a Leslie Hedland interview, which is obviously going to be the head writer, kind of showrunner, actually, I think is the term, because Star Wars are still kind of doing it a little bit like that, whereas Marvel don't. For the Acolyte, it's her pitch, it's her idea. And, she talked about how, it is about what's Star Wars to you, and then, what excites you about Star Wars, and then doing that. But she kind of also talked about, lots of other kind of interesting aspects of it as well, and how she kind of come in as a fan. And I think actually she's very similar to you and I in a lot of ways, or in terms of,
she says,
me anyway,
she says
that she kind of was a fan of the OT, maybe not as obsessive on the OT as I was, or kind of you were at the time, but then a little bit like you, and Nick, at the time, because we've had Nick on a few times before, the special editions kind of hit for her.
For him.
And then, she kind of, went off it a little bit when the prequels came out, because she didn't particularly like them, and then, as she read up, and started watching all the kind of Dave Filoni stuff, which, like me, not you, she
Yeah.
kind of started appreciating some of that a little bit more.
Yeah, at least the stories and characters.
She would
not
read
the
and
actual
then she
show.
started reading books and blah 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 blah, and
Yeah.
kind of got really into it. So, it's interesting because I don't think we can talk about everything she talked about, but you
No.
can certainly, the main points that I thought were most important, we certainly covered on lrmonline.com. So
Yeah, and
have
we
a
can.
look at that on there.
I'll bring those up in just a second, right after this word from our awesome sponsors over at Grow Generation. Grow Generation, where the pros go to grow. Grow Generation offers the best deals and discounts on the best grow products on the market. Grow Generation serves customers across the nation and carries a wide inventory of renowned cultivation brands. Go to www.growgeneration.com, where the pros go to grow. Yay! So do that. Yeah, so let me bring up our wonderful whole share screen again and talk about these some of the quotes and some of the things.
It was so long that I couldn't cover it all, because she starts off with how she came into it, her love of Star Wars and all that, and that's like a book. You know, if you want to read it all, click on the main link. So I don't think we can do that. It's put out 1,500, and it's just copying quotes from someone else's site.
Exactly.
I would feel that there was no room for me to even talk on it myself. Yeah. So I kind of picked the points that I thought were most newsworthy out of it, and that was kind of, as you're showing on screen at the moment, the stuff she spoke about kind of creating the writer's room, and that's what I found was interesting, how she went about. She's got a pitch, she doesn't have a script. She's got this is what I want my show to be about. I've got this idea in my head, and this is how TV shows work. And then she goes out and she hires a load of writers that she thinks are going to be good, going to bring something new to the table. They all get in a room and they hammer out, all these scripts and stories or whatever. And then, they'll all be assigned a script each once they've got a rough idea of where they're going, and it's that person's job. But she still gets overview over everything. She has to see every script before it gets sort of sent through to Lucasfilm to kind of for final approval or whatever else you want to call it. So it's still going through her. And I know there was one part of this that you kind of picked up on, and you were not the only fan to pick up on this, because some people did in the comments as well, when she talks about hiring someone who'd basically never seen Star Wars before.
Yes. Oh my God.
See, I have a completely different viewpoint on this from you.
Yeah.
So, you give your point of view first of all.
Sure. So I talked a bit about this on the Daily Cog with Manny, and we both agreed that it's awesome to have outside opinion, outside thought, and that some IPs that can be in the writer's room, like when you talk about like a new show or maybe a spin-off of something that's relatively recent, something that is not burdened by its past. And I don't mean Star Wars is burdened by its past in a negative way, but dear God, could you imagine being asked to write a canon Star Wars story? How scared would you be, Yeah,
I get it. So, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. But so when I read this interview and she talks about this one writer and the writer had never seen any Star Wars media before entering the writer's room.
Which,
this wasn't like
she does say though was specifically the reason, that, and that she thought they were a good writer, obviously, was the reason she actually hired them. And she does talk about
that could be season 2. But I feel that Star Wars has too much with it that to bring in somebody that green. I mean, look, you have cinematographers, set designers, character designers, makeup artists, producers, directors. You're gonna go to. There's a lot of chances, and all of those positions I don't feel are necessarily as
the artists surely
needed
would have
for
to
knowledge.
Really steep themselves in that knowledge.
But writing,
I think more so.
That's important.
I would agree with you if this was a pitch from someone who wanted to do a Star Wars show and they themselves were the one that had never seen Star Wars. I think what Hedland is saying is that she's a major Star Wars fan. She's around everything, so she's not going to let something go through that doesn't work.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm just taking a drink. At the same time, she's also all the other people she's hired have got that sort of Star Wars knowledge and everything like that, to varying different degrees. So she basically comments on how it's cool that this person can look at it from a non-Star Wars point of view and ask questions like, well, why do we do this? Why do we do that? Because she kind of feels that it keeps her on her toes and makes her think, well, okay, how would I make this accessible to someone? Does this only work for Star Wars fans? And make her look at it in a different way. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, as long as you're over everything that person does and you're able to go, well, you can't do that.
Yeah.
That wouldn't work.
And not just that point, because I do agree with you. There is a way that it could work. I just don't see the point in taking the risk and also the optics, because we don't trust Star Wars right now, do we? Like, in general, like every project that gets announced and comes out, we're approaching with caution,
trepidation. Yeah,
exactly. And this is just one of those.
The Mandalorian,
yeah, this is just one of those Disney era red flags where they haven't built enough of a trust with us on their content. It's like your books mostly meh, some of them outright suck, and you've only got a few decent new canon books. Your comics, you started off decent with the first 25, well, they did 70 some odd issues, but the first 2 years of Star Wars was decent. The first year of Vader, or first 25 issues of the first run from Vader was awesome. But then it just starts getting repetitive and yada, yada, yada. And I know there were some decent stories out of Vader 2 and Vader 3, but nowhere near as good as Vader 1, because it was fresh, it was new, you hadn't seen it yet. And we got the introduction of Afra and the 2 droids and all of that, which was really cool and fun. But they have not earned my trust yet. They just haven't. And therefore, I'm one of those that's like, at this point, if I'm Kathleen Kennedy, I'm calling Zahn and being like, hey, you're good with the old crew. We don't need them to write scripts. We don't need them to take over necessarily for Pablo, but we need a sounding board. We need some experience. That's the type of, because of the position Star Wars is in right now. That's it.
Should that not be, given his new role, is that not kind of a little bit what they've got Dave Filoni doing now, just kind of keeping track of things and making sure it all kind of ticks over?
You would
making
think.
sense. Although he's not directly involved with the Acolyte, I'm guessing Dave will still get some input into it at some point. The scripts are completed and get to put his kind of say in at some point in that. Potentially even Jon Favreau as well, but I'm not so sure about that as Dave. So I don't know. I think we just have to, like all projects, we just have to wait and see. What I would say is Leslie Hedland talks a good game. And the content that she's covering is content that I am intrigued to see. I like the idea of a mystery, which is the way it's been described, as a mystery set in a period we really haven't seen before, and kind of heavily potentially involving the dark side. That does interest me a lot. It really just depends now whether she can pull off a script that's engaging and, that I'm interested in and what you see through to the end. And I guess we won't know that until the show's out. And if it's really good, we'll probably never talk about the fact that, they had a writer that didn't know Star Wars again. But if there's something we really hate about it, and we find out that person wrote that episode, we're going to go into them like a ton of bricks. It's just the way it's going to happen. So it's it's up to her as the showrunner, if you like, to make sure that it's working. It falls on her shoulders at the end of the day that script goes in for filming. I wonder who's going to direct it. She's not a director, Leslie Hedland, is she?
No,
so I wonder if they're going to just bring in various different directors like they did with The Mandalorian, or whether they're kind of going to get one person to do it all, because a show changes a lot at that point as well. They've talked a little bit about this with the Marvel shows and how Michael Waldron, who's writing the Kevin Feige Star Wars movie anyway, was talking a little bit about how there's a kind of pass the baton process.
Right.
You know, that he's the kind of quarterback when it's at the scripting stage because he's the head writer. But once, you know, Kate Hearn got involved with Loki, you know, then it's like she's the quarterback now, but he's still in the team, you know, and doing his part, you know, to kind of just tick things along and make the changes that she spots and that she wants to go with. And it's this kind of collaborative process. So there's going to be an element of that, I would guess, with whatever directors they bring in as well and what kind of visions that they have. But then if Hedland is showrunner rather than just head writer, which Waldron was, then perhaps she's got a say in herself and who kind of comes in and directs them, and they follow the same vision as her. So who knows? But it's definitely a project I'm intrigued to see more about.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the other controversial thing that people brought up, which was diversity and representation and what Star Wars is. I
think
she makes a comment. Let me see because I want to quote her specifically. So I had the AV article up for a minute on what you call it. Hold on. There we go. Paula. Okay, so. She says, let's see here, that's too far, and that goes for ideology as well. I mean, it's funny because a lot of the feedback that I'll get, and I use the term feedback very lightly, but when I do go on social media, the feedback is, don't make Star Wars political, quote, and then she's like, and she's making an inside quote, George Lucas made it political. Those are political films. No, he didn't. He didn't at all. As a matter of fact, Lucas is on film saying that these aren't political films. They're not contemporary commentary.
Well, know, that's the word. You used the right word there. Contemporary political, right?
Yes.
So that's the difference, and we've talked about this before. Yeah, you absolutely can deal with the politics as they exist within that universe.
Yes.
The problems people would face, the different points of view that people would have. I don't think they necessarily always need to translate to current issues that we are having in our politics right now, as if to say, this has got something to say for us as well. Yet at the same time, Star Trek was always famously did this because it came down to pure morality.
And that's
end of the day,
but
Star
that's what
Trek,
it was created for. That's what it was created for. It was created the same way Marvel was for contemporary commentary.
There's a lot of sorry, my cat's crying. I'm just going to
kill him. All right. Don't do
that. There's I think that there is politics, you know, that do exist within Star Wars, which are relevant to what we have just now. I mean, we could look at various different parallels that probably influenced George Lucas, because as he's writing something which has got politics in it, he is going to be influenced by the politics of Earth, because that's what his frame of reference is. He doesn't understand the politics of alien civilizations, so he applies excuse me, a lot of the same issues that we've had over the centuries rather than sort of more recently, and kind of applies them to Star Wars.
Exactly. And
so it depends what they do story wise, obviously, for me.
And to me again, and look, people will point out and they'll go, well, EU fans will generally point out and be like, look, the Star Wars was incredibly diverse. It wasn't necessarily in the movies, but in the books, the games, and comics and things like that. It got very, very, very diverse. Well, why wasn't it diverse in 77, 81, and 83? Well, they were filming in England, which is very, very white. They were filming in England in the 70s and 80s, which is whiter than it is now. And
100%. Yeah.
You know, when you're talking about you throw up a casting call in England for extras to put on Imperial uniforms or Rebel uniforms, what are you going to get? Look, that's just the nature of time and human history and historical context. So when they say things like, you know, we got to do this, that, and the other for representation. It's like, look, you guys actually had a lot of that already. What we're not necessarily upset at that.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if they had a lot of representation for different things,
EU,
but
that's what I'm saying. Like in the
EU, I think there was more. Yeah.
So
rather than the kind of movies, but then
right,
the movies almost feel like they don't have time to really get into that other than a few of the main characters.
Right.
And looks kind of completely ambiguous, if you're talking something like sexuality, for example. And Hedland talks about this example as well, that she loves Mark Hamill's quote that if you think that Luke was gay, then he was, and that's fine, because they've never made a decision either way on that in canon.
Not in canon.
EU books are different.
Not only that, but look at
Luke and Leia, the only other two main characters, and then the fact that they wanted to have a little bit of a triangle between them and Lando, do you know what I mean? Kind of meant to make them straight. And we really don't have any other opportunity to see anybody else's relationships in that original trilogy, because they just not enough time to explore any kind of secondary characters.
Nope.
The prequels could have been slightly different on that front, but they didn't do even a good enough job of exploring the main characters in that. So let's not kind of stretch Lucas too far and giving people side stories and backstories and playing with his technology and CGI too much. The actual characters were very much low on the scale on that trilogy.
And
so I'm absolutely fine with, if Hedland wants to include people that are different from what the norm is, that's absolutely fine. She's creating a story from the ground up. She can have the characters do whatever the hell she wants characters to do ultimately.
That's what I think is the thing. So for example, I've often talked about how women, while there's always room for improvement, there's even room for improvement for male characters being written today. There's always room for improvement. However, women won science fiction fight. They did. I would say, for all intents and purposes, that science fiction today, from books to TV to movies and games, science fiction is fairly well diverse between men and women. Now, when we get to orientation, colors, and things like that, we've got more work to go.
I don't know if I read enough modern books to be able to kind of judge that.
No,
I'm still too entrenched in a lot of the classics.
You might be. I'm not, and I will 100% assure you that things from ranging from Star Wars EU, going into BattleTech, going into individual IPs, of course, definitely way more diverse than an existing IP like a StarCraft book or a Warcraft book or something. But you look at the movies. You start out in the 70s with getting away from the Flash Gordon damsel in distress science fiction. You start getting away from that in the 70s.
And Star Wars has got a bit of like Leia being the damsel in distress. Even then, she's extremely capable. She's not your typical, like I always use the bad example, but they did it for a specific reason. Is Indiana Jones, Willie Scott compared to Raiders of the Lost Ark Marion. Do you know what I mean? Two very different
females, two characters,
female characters,
exactly,
that they write in those movies, and I think they do that specifically to kind of juxtapose one against the other, I suppose, in terms of making a sequel.
Yeah.
But if you look at Princess Leia as a character, she never comes across, all right, she doesn't kind of know her Jedi heritage, and she doesn't get to be the actual kind of action hero as such, the way that Luke does. But she's she ain't no damsel in distress.
No.
As soon as they rescue her, she's like right on top of them.
Yeah, she just needed some tools. She couldn't do anything in the room,
how did you even manage to rescue me? I'm in charge now. Do you know what I mean? And this is somebody that is used to being in charge, know, and that kind of continues for the rest of her character's development right through into the sequel trilogy, that she's basically the boss of the good guys, I mean? So,
and she did that in the EU too. She became chief of state,
representing her character, I don't think, in any ways.
So
what they could have done, for example, back in the days, they could have had some more female pilots, for example, in the kind of run against the Death Star, that would have kind of maybe fixed it a little bit. But
Yeah.
at the time,
casting, context, when and where, but those are side characters as well in those X-Wings. And when we got them,
but that's where it's
ones,
important, though. It's like the side characters don't make all the side characters look exactly the same,
right? Again,
but
context of when and where they filmed.
Though, there's that from people that are less represented, that they feel like, oh, we've got tons of these side characters, because that's where they shove.
Right.
People like me now, they give us the side characters, give us some main characters for once. You know what I mean?
So that's what I'm getting at. So you get the 70s is where women start getting beyond the, like I said, the damsel in distress. By the 1980s, you've got your Leias, which are kind of transitional. You've got your Ellen Ripleys, which are, just 100% certified badasses. And then
but she was quite rare, though, even for the 80s
at the time. But then you get into the 90s, and you start looking at, as video games grow and expand, and the EU expands, and you start looking at things in Battlestar Galactica in the early 2000s, and you start looking at
even
Dark Angel, Laura Croft. That, like, the 90s is
Buffy
where
the Vampire Slayer.
Buffy the Vampire. 90s is where not only now are they badass co-leads, like Ripley was a lead for.
She was definitely a lead in
Aliens and stuff. But Alien, you could kind of say she was like a co-lead. But here you've got now you in the 90s, like I mentioned, Dark Angel, Buffy, things like that. Now you've got women headlining it, okay, and it only gets better for them as we go forward across all of the mediums. And I'll kind of wrap up my points on what she says here about the politics and what you said about the representation. Most people have no problem with representation and diversity on screen. If you do, you're a jackass. What most people don't like about what they have done in Star Wars, and I don't know what she will do there. For all intents and purposes, she could figure out a way to beat us over the head with contemporary politics, and us like it. But generally, in Star Wars, contemporary politics don't mesh because it wasn't created for that. That universe doesn't really, other than when you look at just the films and you go, oh, I don't see enough people of color or women. It's like context. But if you look at the actual politics, the galaxy, there's never any hints that women are different in the rebellion. They are in the Empire in the old EU, but not in the new Empire. They made the Empire almost just good guys that just look, the Empire was way more evil in the EU.
yeah, I suppose, but it was kind of that. Which I think is a kind of American thing to do, is, the white British guy's the bad guy. That's the way the Empire were in the kind of original trilogy. They were all British and they were all white, and it kind of just had that thing going. It's that anti-imperialism type of thing. So that's almost like, you could say in some ways that's political in itself, whether that was Lucas's intention. But still, you look at that original trilogy and every Imperial is white and British, I think, and except a couple of Americans creep into Jedi, and that's about it.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it all comes down to this, okay? It's what you said at the very, very beginning. One day you and I will pass away, and Star Wars will likely continue on as far as Disney's concerned. They want it to continue on. But like you also said, it's about balance. It's about making sure you don't close the doors and windows on the old fans and kick us out in the cold. And it's like, here's your OT and your old EU. Now get the fuck away, because that's not right. First off, we financially support you more than any fucking 20-year-old sequel trilogy fan does. I guarantee it. Money spent on merchandise, tattoos, like, yeah, guys.
They don't get any money from tattoos.
But they get advertisement, fandom. But on the flip end, you can definitely create things. That was the great thing about the EU and comic books and Star Trek having so many different shows. And the best thing about Star Trek is they don't just keep it on the Kirk bloodline or a Picard bloodline. You Deep Space Nine, Discovery, Voyager, Next Generation, Originals. Star Wars has been missing out on that because they're so fucking got their heads shoved up Luke Skywalker's ass that you don't even get the opportunity to show some potential contemporary commentary by getting the fuck away from the escapism, because that's what it all comes down to, people. Star Wars, ask George Lucas himself, was created for escapism, just as most science fiction was at that time.
It's fantasy rather than science fiction. A lot of science fiction,
science fantasy.
Because science fiction at that time did have a lot of contemporary politics in it. I mean, we look at Logan's Run, things like that, but they didn't make a lot of money.
The fantasy, you're absolutely right.
Whereas
science fantasy is what he likes to
more
call it. Yeah,
pure escapism, if you like. But even then, fantasy's adapted over the years as well. So, and people have enjoyed that adaptation. People have enjoyed fantasy stories that have got a little bit more political and had a bit more of a message to them sometimes as well, and had a little bit more to say. And
they can do that
good
with Star
fantasy, and good fantasy, good sci-fi always has something to say. You might not necessarily agree with the message it's going across, but if it's wrapped up in a really good story that you enjoy reading, you can kind of go along with it as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, I wouldn't say fantasized about being some sort of rebel or something like that and fighting the Empire. When I was a kid, it didn't speak to me politically in that kind of way. It was a kind of case of what was right and wrong, but right and wrong as you grow older is very much a grey thing, and you and I could sit and debate all day about what's right and wrong and only agree on a handful of points.
And I think, like I said, that's what it comes down to, is right now there's a group of fans that are like reverse gatekeeping. Like, we let you in. Good, the good fans that didn't do gatekeeping.
We didn't let them in. Nobody let them in.
You know what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm trying to say. We didn't. You and I never tried to keep any fans out. The fans like you and I.
I had a fence up. I was saying get off my lawn.
I didn't.
No, I'm only kidding.
Okay.
Of course not.
But, well, I mean, I was an asshole to DC fans back in the day, and I'll admit to that. But you and I didn't. DC. We didn't keep anyone out. And we don't want to be kicked out. Like, we're down for people to get new stories that are different. We're just asking that you guys don't forget about us. Don't forget what came before. And create for your audience. And this is whether you like it or not. Star Wars is a split audience. It's generationally split. It's ideologically split. There's a lot of splits there.
So much. I mean, every time you make a TV program these days, everybody wants it to be a hit. Some of them I like, some of them I don't. And that's going to be the same with Star Wars.
Exactly. And you need to accept that and create like that.
That's fine. I just hope, that the majority are really well-written stories that have, engaging stories that I want to see come to their conclusion, and I'll be happy with that. I don't care if the main character, I've said this before, if the main character was an alien, an asexual alien, do you know what I mean, who reproduces asexually or something like that, do you know what I mean? I don't care, make it an interesting character, tell a good story about it, and that could be the best character that they've ever created in Star Wars, as far as I'm concerned. You have no limitations.
No.
You have an entire
you have a limitation by the Skywalker saga.
Yes, but not with this show, not with the Acolyte, not with anything else. You don't. If you're talking about representation, make it an alien woman. I don't know. Think a term that would work for the Star Wars galaxy or something like that. It doesn't matter as long as we it's drama. At the end of the day, give her drama to resolve. Make her a character that we enjoy seeing how he or she resolves this drama, and give us the cool shit that we like for Star Wars, which is, if you're going to get into the dark side, explore it, explain it to us, tease us with some stuff that we didn't know, and give us a few Easter eggs and things that, could potentially set up things in the future, and I'll be all for it.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, I just keep coughing today, guys. Apology.
That's right. We're gonna wrap it up anyways, Cam. We're done for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Those are our biggest takeaways. The big news this week. Wave 2 of the EU books and Leslie Hedland's interview. She also did mention she almost dropped a date, didn't she? This is a little bit earlier than we thought. Maybe,
I think she was using that date. She said something about 350. I might not get the date by right, but said something like 355 years before Yavin.
Oh, she might be given like a historical context.
I think,
for a
or she was given just an example. The way she was talking about it, like, yeah, if this character's, you know, and I think she was just given as example work, being able to give us the exact example she'd have been using in the writer's room. She doesn't want to give us too much information because, of course, 355 years before Yavin would really put us in that proper into that High Republic territory that the books are covering at the moment. And although we could be wrong, but the official blurb that came out said that towards the end of that period and into the fall of the Republic period. So we think, or most people tend to think, you're looking about 100 years before the Phantom Menace at most, maybe even less than that, potentially. Or, you know, you're 50 to 150, let's say, you know, would be a ballpark figure anywhere around about there. Would probably, that's where we think this show would be set. So I don't think she's being accurate with that. I think she was just using an example that wouldn't be the exact example, but we could be wrong. We could have all got it completely wrong, and it is set right bang in the middle of the High Republic. But I just don't think so. Doesn't seem to feel right. It feels like the blurb saying that, you know, it was towards the end of that period would preclude that date from being relevant, I think.
Yeah. Well, anyways, everyone, with that, please be sure that you are checking out lrmonline.com every single day for all of your entertainment news, needs, and opinions. Look, there's Manny and I talking. We cover everything, guys. Marvel's, Star Wars. Clone High is coming back. That's freaking awesome. The Renter Guard. David Harbour wants to see that happen. Comic
I would like to see that happen as well.
They just made a alternate Winter Hulk out of Jennifer Walters as the Red Winter Hulk, but anyways, in the comic books,
right.
We've got all this going on, guys. The Smallville animated sequel is look, LRM is on top of shit. And not only are we on top of stuff there, but we've got our outstanding YouTube channel, and on here you'll find that's loud in my ears. On here you'll find the Daily Cog, our daily show where we talk about everything in the genreverse of entertainment news. Lots of interviews, guys. Corey Feldman, we talked to Robert Duvall, Thomas F. Wilson. That's right, Biff was on LRM. We've got all of that and so much more. So we would love for you guys to hit that subscribe button, help us out, share us with some friends and family, and of course wherever you get your podcasts from. Spotify, Apple, Google, SoundCloud is really great because they allow us to keep pretty much our entire backlog on there. And
so if you want to ever go and like see what Kel and I thought of any Star Wars movie basically ever made, they're all on there. And Mandalorian season 1 and season 2. Yep.
Very in
depth. To listen to them. Yeah, very in depth.
The Cantina, guys, is the Cantina reviews is not to be taken lightly when we're going through the 11 live action films.
No.
Those are very. I don't know anyone that's broken those films down in conversation, like maybe by themselves, but not in conversation the way you and I did. So I hope everyone will go give those a listen. Other than that, I'm at that Kyle Malone on Twitter, and I do a lot of the podcasts around here, and you guys can reach out to me in comments sections or there on Twitter. Cam, where can people find you at?
At LRM_Cam on Twitter as well. Hit me up.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening this week. We will talk to you next time, and may the Force be with you. No, you